In late 2023, one app knocked Netflix off the #1 spot on the US App Store's entertainment chart. It wasn't Disney Plus, it wasn't Max, it wasn't YouTube. It was an app called ReelShort, a platform built around 90-second vertical dramas where someone gets betrayed, slapped, divorced, or revealed to be a secret billionaire. Every 30 seconds, something insane happens. The acting is ridiculous. The dialogue is worse. Critics hate it. Yet, millions of people can't stop watching. At first glance, this looks like another story about shrinking attention spans and brain rot machines. But what if that is a wrong explanation? What if these stories are succeeded for a reason? And if they are, what do audience actually want? Last year, China's macro-drama industry generated more revenue than the country's entire cinema box office, crossing 50 billion yuan. That is roughly $6.9 billion from short dramas. Internationally, that momentum is accelerating. By the end of 2026, the global short drama market is projected to be $6 to $9 billion industry. By comparison, it barely existed 5 years ago. The real mystery isn't whether these shows are good or bad, isn't brain rot, but why they are impossible to stop watching. The answer is not only about algorithm. It is about a very specific cultural formula that was invented in China, pure tested under extreme conditions, and then quietly exported to Western audiences who had absolutely no idea where it came from. Today, we're going to reverse engineer this machine, the psychological formula, the industry origin history, and how the next wave of AI is about to change everything. How can you write something that people call garbage, but they can't stop watching? Now imagine you are scrolling on your phone. You stop on a video. A janitor gets slapped by the CEO. A customer throws a drink in the janitor's face. Security drags him out. Then someone rushes in. The janitor is the company's founder. All in 60 seconds. Cut. Next episode. That is the entire business model. Because what just happened wasn't storytelling in the traditional sense. The Chinese internet had a word for this feeling, Shuang. Shuang roughly translated to an intense, almost chemical sense of gratification. Pure, unadulterated, pure guilty pleasure. In classic Western storytelling, the hero suffers deeply, slowly, repeatedly. Think Frodo driving himself across Mordor. Think Walter White spent 5 seasons sliding toward rock bottom. The payoff comes late, and the waiting is the point. It earns the emotional release. But the short drama do the opposite. They remove almost all waiting. And that is when I realized they weren't really selling stories at all. It is an accelerated dopamine loop built on 3 and only 3 primal human vulnerabilities: overnight wealth, intense romantic tension, and the reversal of humiliation. Every episode promises one of these. Every episode delivers or cut right before it does. It was emotional engineering. The difference matters. Engineering means our emotions can be measured, optimized, and eventually automated. To turn this into a scalable industry, producers need more than good instinct. They need a blueprint. In other words, data science. Imagine you discover that almost every fairy tale follows the same underlying pattern. The hero is humiliated, a villain stands in the way. Something changes. Justice arrives. The audience feels satisfied. Now imagine take that delivery and turn it into a spreadsheet. That is more or less what happened. More than a century ago, a Russian folklorist named Vladimir Prop spent years analyzing hundreds of folk tales. And he noticed something strange. Most stories share the same underlying skeleton. The hero is tested, a villain deceives, an ally appears, a reward is earned. Prop mean this as an academic observation. The macro-drama industry read it and thought, great, so we can mass produce this. And once you start noticing the pattern, it is everywhere. Wealth, romance, revenge, different costume, same emotional machine. Standard formula works in 3 steps. First, the 3-second hook. A billionaire is thrown from a luxury car, or a husband catches his wife cheating. Something dramatic happens before you even realize you are watching a video. Second, the 30-second emotional denotation. A glass shatters, a slap echoes, or a vicious insult is delivered. Platform shows that adding a crash within the first 30 seconds boosts video retention by 172%. That isn't creative instinct, it's pure data. Finally, the paywall cliffhanger, usually around episode 10, right as the abused protagonist is about to reveal their true identity and destroy their oppressors. the video freezes. You must pay 50 cents, let's say, to unlock the next episode. At this point, you are not paying for cinematic art. You are paying to relieve the tension they deliberately created. It is brilliant. It is ruthless. Watching a bunch of episodes can feel less like following a story and more like riding a sequence of emotional spikes. Now you might think, okay, but this is just cheap content with a clever cheek. However, this format is a dimensional strike against traditional film. Traditional cinema asks you to carve out 2 hours, sit down, put your phone away, and commit to a slow-burning narrative. Short drama don't compete for that at all. They capture the fractured crumbs your day produced naturally. The elevator wait, the subway ride, the 3 minutes before a meeting starts. 60 to 90 seconds per episode. 80 to 100 episodes per series, a climax every 30 seconds, one major turning point per episode, not per season. It is a completely different species of media, built for fragmented attention, but the formula is just lines of code. It needs a factory capable of mass-producing these emotional spikes at speed. You know what? That factory was born out of a true disaster. It started around 2018 on Chinese short video platform like Douyin and Kuaishou. Creators were experimenting with vertical drama formats, short, punchy, emotional. But it was still a niche. Then the pandemic hit. Traditional big-budget film production collapsed almost overnight. Crews couldn't shoot, funding dried up, and thousands of mid-tier actors, directors, camera operators, and the script writers were suddenly stranded with no work and no income. There is a studio complex in Zhejiang province called Hengdian. It is the largest outdoor studio lot in the world. It is where China films most of its period dramas and big-budget productions. When the pandemic killed traditional production, Hengdian underwent a bizarre mutation. Industry insiders started calling it a Shudian, which is a pun. Heng means horizontal, Shu means vertical. The whole city has pivoted. Across the city, production teams discovered they could shoot an entire microdrama just in little more than a week. Sets were reused. Scripts were simplified. Scenes were planned out around speed. Production was optimized like a factory floor. Actors didn't memorize lines. Directors stood just off camera, shouting cues in real time.
收到一短剧的拍摄现场，背景里的工作人员说一句，演员就说一句：“
对不起，
对不起。”小演员这样说就算了，怎么成年人还这样啊？
你把我总裁的鞋子弄脏了，我赔得起吗？你把我总裁的鞋弄脏了，你赔得起吗？问他玉佩哪里来的？
玉是哪里来的？
我妈妈留给我的。
我妈妈留给我的。
我从小就带着。
从小就带。
The actors aren't performing emotions anymore. They are executing them on command, like machines. The humans had already started becoming the algorithm before AI ever showed up. The production budget for some of these series just a few $1,000s. Yet, a hit can return up to 170 times its cost, enough to make a Hollywood producer jealous. And then, the domestic market got too crowded. Thousands of identical studios were competing for the same Chinese users. Ad costs skyrocketed. Margins tightened. The domestic red ocean had arrived. So the industry made a daring bet. Take the formula abroad. When platforms like ReelShort landed in North America in late 2022, they carried one critical insight. Dopamine speaks every language. They didn't only try to explore Chinese content, but exported the emotional engine, the Shuang formula, and rebuilt it entirely in Western cultural clothing. Western audiences, maybe like you, had little appetite for imperial concubines or Confucian family dramas, but a massive, fully formed appetite for something else. Werewolves, vampires, toxic alpha males, and secret billionaires. The producers realized something profound. Culture might be regional, but the underlying emotional glitches in the human brain are universal. So Chinese companies set up production hubs in California. They hired out-of-work SAG-AFTRA actors. They allocated roughly $150 to $300K per shot. And then they ran American crews through the exact same 60-second twist editing pipeline that had been perfected in Shudian. Media scholar Lev Manovich, in his The Language of New Media, called this transcoding. You keep the emotional architecture of the original, but swap out the cultural symbols for local ones. The mechanism underneath stays identical. The surface looks completely native. Western viewers didn't experience it as a Chinese product. They experienced it as something that feels tailor-made for them, that just happened to be incredibly addictive. And that raises an interesting question. If these stories can be rewriting for different cultures while keeping the same underlying structure, how much of the process actually depends on humans? Because once you realize this isn't art, but a highly optimized mathematical equation, welcome to the automated edge of the cliff. AI just made that obsolete too. Recently, a 3-minute sci-fi short film called The Zombie Scavenger went viral internationally. Hollywood producer was scrambling to find the elite studio behind it. The reality, it was produced entirely by a Chinese wedding photographer in his 20s from a small town in Yunnan, China. He worked on a standard home computer and used a domestic AI video tool. Total production cost it $400, but revenue generated within 72 hours over $500K. That is 1,000 times return from one guy with one laptop. This is probably what the next phase of short dramas look like. AI tools are slashing production costs by anywhere from 30 to 90%. Localization was used to mean expensive casting, union negotiations, and months of dubbing is not instantaneous. The part that should be generally unsettled, the traditional entertainment industry. AI tools can now take a drama shot in China with Chinese actors and automatically swipe their faces to appear Caucasian, Black, or Latino, with perfectly synchronized lip movements with the fluent English or Spanish. The vocal inflection is regenerated to match. The cultural markers are stripped and replaced. The content is the same, while the audience never knows. First, the story got engineered. Then the production got engineered. Not even the human faces can be engineered. Each step removed a little more of human. And the audience never noticed so much because the emotional hits never stopped landing. Quite a few industry roles, such as background actors, subtitle translators, basic editors, are already evaporating. What is emerging instead is analysts are called the era of the super individual. A single creator armed with AI tools capable of producing what used to require an entire production company. The wedding photographer from Yunnan is not the ceiling of the story. He's more like a baseline of the industry future. So let's stand back and look at the full picture. Short dramas didn't succeed by accident. They succeeded because they solved 3 problems at once. They found a formula, the Shuang culture, that eliminated the waiting of dopamine entirely. They built an industry system of Shudian, capable of producing that formula at scale and speed that traditional film cannot match. And they weaponized cultural transcoding to make the content feel immediately native to anyone else. The harder question is what this reveals about entertainment itself. Traditional media was built around ideas that emotional payoffs take time. Short dramas challenge that assumption and find something uncomfortable. For a significant portion of human beings, including myself, a precisely engineered 30-second emotional hit can be more addicting than a 2-hour exquisite narrative. Our brains are remarkably easy to hack. That is not a failure of the audience, they're just an honest observation about what attention actually does under pressure. What comes next? Probably full AI production pipelines, real-time global localization, AI-generated actor are generally uncharted territory. The short drama didn't win with better stories. It won by engineering our emotions. Here is the harder question. Does it bother you that it worked? Or are you fine being predicted as long as it feels good? If you want to understand more hidden business engines in East Asia, you will also want to see why Elon Musk can build WeChat and why short videos are so popular in China. If you are curious about the side hustles in China that you can participate in, check out this video. Thank you, and I will see you there.